Moin Moin and hello everybody. A very warm welcome to a new edition of the DUP Digital Business Talk. Today's topic is the impact of audio. We have two guests and experts here with whom we would like to discuss how the quality of sound influences success in a digital working environment. Now let me introduce our guests to you. First of all, we have Jesper Kock here. Jesper is Vice President Research and Development at EPOS and is headquartered in Copenhagen. So Jesper is from Denmark, and that's the reason why we conduct this talk in English. And we have also the scientific expertise here, represented by Professor Thomas Lenarz, who is director at the Clinic, I hope I can call it that way, HNO-Klinik in German, at the Medizinische Hochschule in Hannover. A very warm welcome. Good to have you here. My name is Thomas Alrich. I'm editor-in-chief at the DUP Unternehmer magazine, and I have the pleasure and the privilege to host this talk. Now let's step right into it. In the last, I would say, 18 months, we saw the classical professional working environment transform into a hybrid working world. Flexibility is gained, some efficiency was gained, but are there only advantages involved in that development, or do you see any problems or obstacles? Maybe Jesper, you will give us a first answer.
Well, that's actually a very good question. And what we have done at EPOS is that we have conducted a survey with Ipsos in Denmark on behalf of EPOS, where we try to understand the sound experience in the field, in the professional working field. And it turned out that right now people are working from anywhere, anytime, and that puts a lot of challenges to the technology used when you are working with sound equipment. Because today when two people are meeting up, they go into a meeting room, and then both people are in the same sound environment. Whereas with the new hybrid working style, where people work from anywhere at any time, there people need to communicate while they are in different sound environments. So when a person is talking, another person is receiving that information, it will be in two different situations. One person could be sitting in a meeting room with a very calm environment. Another person could be working from the airport. And you could imagine that the person working out of the airport has the sound environment for that person puts a lot more challenging for the technology to perform well. So even though that people are more flexible, it also means that if you don't have the right sound equipment, then you will not be very efficient and you will work inefficiently if you do not have this professional sound equipment.
And from a medical point of view, Professor Lenarz, what obstacles do you see?
Well, I think the main point is that we are not really facing each other in a usual way. And so you have to anticipate how the acoustics in the other room to whom you speak are. And this can be quite difficult because normally you feel the environment just by your ears. Yeah? You can get atmosphere, the character. And that is something that is missing. So, for instance, you speak just to somebody whom you are seeing, but so to say, whom you are not experiencing. And I think this makes it clear that we need specific audio equipment to be sure that what we say is really delivered to the other person or the other people. There could be more than just one. So that we get also the atmosphere right.
Okay. But how likely would it be from your point of view, Jesper, that we will return to the old working environment when we finally get rid of the pandemic? What would you think? Are there tendencies that maybe employers will rather get back to the old working environment?
The latest research that we did showed that almost 90% of the professional workforce globally, they have for a longer period of time, the last 12 months, worked from home. And 50% of these, they would very much like to continue to work from home, not to the same extent as they are doing today, where it's more or less full-time, but maybe 1 or 2 days per week is preferred by most people. And that request combined with the fact that people actually managed to work well and efficient from home the last 12 months also indicates that the large organizations globally probably will continue to accept that people are working from home, even though that the pandemic is over. So yes, we have a strong belief that we will see a new normal, so to speak, for professional workforce, where they work and how often they go to work, like we did before the pandemic. So people will work more from home. This is our strong belief, and we have no indications that this is not the case.
Okay, Jesper, do you see any differences when we see the expectations of employers and employees regarding the future of hybrid working?
Again, back to the research that we did, it corresponds very well with what I said earlier, is that more than 50% of the employers, they expect that people will come back to work like they did before the pandemic. But if you combine or compare that to what the employees think, then we are down to 26%. It means that there is a request or a demand or a wish from the employees that they would like to continue to work flexible from work. Again, maybe not to the same extent full time, but a couple of days a week is probably what we should foresee.
Okay. Coming back to Professor Lenarz, video conferences, and as we all know, and as we witness right now, is at the heart of the new working environment. To give an answer, please, in detail, what medical consequences do you see out of this movement? What are the effects on the hearing system if you do stuff like that, what we do right now every day? Are there growing numbers of impairments or damages that you already see or expect?
Basically, we would say that there is no specific inherent risk with this type of conferences, as long as you really avoid very loud sound that is given directly into your ears. So, for instance, if we just sit in front of a computer and the loudspeaker that is on, that does not produce sound levels which are high enough to impair your hearing. But if you have an insert phone in your outer ear canal, then probably you can, of course, some damage, but that would be with very high levels of sound. I think there is another aspect we should mention, that is that we have a high percentage of people in our civilization, in our societies, who are hearing impaired. Mm-hmm. And for them, it could be more difficult really to use standard equipment to follow, for instance, conferences. So they need specific equipment to do that. So for them, it could be a disadvantage if they are, let's say, not equipped properly with that. And for them to use then non-adequate equipment could be something which is, in addition to the already existing hearing loss, a problem for them just to follow conversation and also erect in the proper way.
Sorry, can I make a comment on that? I think that is really interesting because what we see is that people in the 50s, and I'm sure that a professional can also confirm that, is that this is actually where people start to lose their hearing in a small scale initially, and since the combination of people doing that and being 50, this is also normally where you peak in the professional world, and what you lose first normally is the high frequencies, and it's also in the high frequencies that the information in a conversation is located. And if you combine that fact that you are starting to lose some of your hearing while you are working from home and you have bad equipment, then it doesn't make, it's not a good cocktail. So if you really want to perform well in the working from home as a hybrid worker, then and also being a little older, maybe not older, I myself is also above 50, so I should also be careful here. But then it is important that you also have the right equipment to support you working from home, because it is, when you have a conversation with another person, it is the high frequencies where you have a lot of the signal, which is important for you to understand the human voice and in a conversation. I'm sure the professor can confirm that.
And I agree with you, as exactly as you described it. So we have a growing population with that problem. So working time or lifespan we are working is prolonged. Plus there is a true increase in hearing impairment already at younger ages. So.
Right, Jesper, you mentioned your research. Can you tell us some more details? How was the design?
Yes, actually what we wanted to obtain was to get a little more information about our users and the behavior of our users. So what we did is that we engaged with Ipsos Denmark, which on behalf of EPOS conducted this survey, and was done this spring, April in 2021. And the survey was both male and female participants at the age of 18 to 65. And all these people were working in companies which has plus 50 employees. And it was in UK, US, Germany, Hong Kong, and Singapore locations. The interviewed people were decision makers and also end users. And they are all using audio equipment and had a working hour for minimum 40 hours, minimum 20 hours per week. So by having this scope of this research, scope like that, then we were certain that we have a global coverage, and people were distributed in age and gender in a nice way.
And if you reduce what you found out to, I don't know, 3 main findings, what would they be?
If I should pick 3, then I would say that bad audio is bad business. And that was also substantiated all over the report. 85% claim that poor audio is simply something that cost companies a lot of business because they are simply just frustrated and irritated and inefficient because they don't get the equipment to work. And 15% also claimed that it simply resulted in a financial hit. Either they lost a customer, or they didn't perform as their customers would expect, or they simply had to close down some projects because they couldn't execute them accordingly. So that would be the 3 main findings that we have seen. But the overall tagline for our findings is that bad audio is simply just bad business.
I think the listening effort, that means the percentage of your brain capacity and your cognitive capacity taken just by listening is much higher than if you have a good audio quality. Because then it's easier for you to follow and also get the details and etc. So that means that you become more exhausted if you have to work in in the bad audio surrounding. And I think that's very important, especially if your working place is then, let's say, at home or any other place where you really have to perform in the same level as you did before in presence.
Sorry, can I comment on that? Because that is really interesting, because we distinguish a lot between active listening and just hearing. Because what the technology can provide is that if you can clean up the signal to the human being and the way the human being is listening, then we can also make sure that the human being is less fatigued. And the reason for that is that it's actually not the ears that is listening or hearing, that is the brain. Because the way that when you listen is that you get all this input from the outside, and the ear is just a carrier of the signal. So as long as when the ear and the sound hits the ear, it is transformed into a neural code. And I'm sure that the professional can talk much more about that. Is more knowledgeable than I am on this. But it's just very interesting when you link that to the technology. So after the neural code is processed into the brain, then it's actually the brain that has to differ and select which sound that is processed actually is relevant for the brain to listen to in the given situation. And it means that the more clear signal the technology can send to the brain, the less the brain has to work overtime, and the less fatigue the brain will be over time. And it also means that, and this is also the big difference between the standard equipment, audio equipment, and the professional audio equipment, is that the professional audio equipment will simply just filter out all the ambient unwanted noises in the signal and send a clearer signal to the brain. And that means that over time, you will not be as fatigued and stressed as you would do if you'd use standard equipment. I think the best example is if you go into an aeroplane, for instance, and you put on a headset, a professional headset with a lot of active noise cancellation, and then you turn on the active noise cancellation inside the flight while you're flying. If you take off the headset while you're flying, you realize that you are exposed to a lot of noise in the airplane. But the people next to you who do not have the same headset on don't realize has the same because it is just the brain that is working overload to compensate, to remove this noise. So both persons are actually happy with the flight, but the person not using the professional headset, removing all the background noise, will be less fatigued after a long flight than the person using the headset. And that analogy you can bring directly into the office segment. If you are exposed to a lot of noise over a full working day, then your brain will remove it for you, but you will spend a lot of energy doing it. And if you do that for hours every day and years, and without taking this into consideration, there will simply be some well-being which will not be fulfilled, and you will have people and employees who over time will be worn out because of stress due to the noise environment.
About a year ago, it was all about making a video conference possible, more or less. It's like, okay, just jump right in and hopefully it works somehow. But after 12 or 18 months right now, things have changed. From your medical point of view, which standards should be met today, Professor Lenarz? We talked about it. But if you combine our findings so far, what standards should be met?
Well, I think we need a good audio quality, which means that the frequency range that is presented covers at least the frequencies of speech. That is something from low as 90 hertz up to 6,000 hertz. That should be presented in a clear way. That means also the microphone has to take it, and then it's so to say transmitted through the transmission system to the recipient. Second is that we of course need also some noise cancellation. Sometimes you have noises surrounding, and that means that this noise is kind of filtered out. So you can use different things like directional microphones, but you also can use active noise cancellation systems. So they basically lower the noise level, which is, I think, very important to have. And third one is, of course, we need to get a feedback-free system, which is not always the case. Yeah. So these are three elements which are important. The fourth one is that, for instance, you can also go for some adjustment to the hearing threshold of patients. So if you say you have somebody who is hearing impaired, high frequencies are not well perceived, then the systems could also use an inbuilt, let's say, equalizer that lifts the high frequencies to a louder sound level, which also can then make it easier for the hearing impaired to listen and to follow.
Would you agree upon the thesis that, of course you will, but maybe you can explain it, that good quality sound can form an advantage somehow for a company, a competitive advantage?
As I said before, on a short term, it's for the individual person who's using the professional equipment. It's simply you just seem more professional for your co-workers and colleagues and customers. There's less interruptions, there's less background noise, and you can focus. But for the company, it's also a matter of taking care of your employees' well-being. Because if you are exposed to too much noise or unwanted noise in the working environment, then over time you will develop fatigueness and potentially also stress. So for good audio equipment, for both on the short track but also on the longer track, is something that is good both for the employer and the employee.
Coming back to the role of the voice, that's quite interesting for me. You were talking about a clear, crisp voice. Could this also be like used some sort of as a weapon in I don't know, business conferencing?
Yes, you can say that the person who have the most clear sound and has the best opportunities to come through with his arguments and has the ability to hear what is being said in the meeting. Of course, this is a competitive edge to come through with your pain points and your points at the meeting. So I think that the baseline for having a good professional sound equipment, audio equipment, is that you simply just perform better if you are equipped with this. And I don't see any other industry or any other areas where professional people they settle with a bad toolbox when they want to act professionally.
I think important that we of course get the full spectrum of the voice, because we can express a lot of so to say nuances and details of information with our voice. And you can, of course, if you have a meeting in person, you have additional information you use to really communicate. And one thing is, of course, the voice, so that you really can load some additional information into the voice, which basically then expresses some mood, some emotions, but also it can be very powerful. And we know people who really are very convincing just with the voice they have. The good speaker has also a good voice, and this must be transmitted in good quality, so that you really can get this, but also that you can use it.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the development of technology, Jesper, you gave us a hint there. Is it sometimes faster than its acceptance in the workforce or its usage, the development? What would you say?
I think it's a common known factor that the technology is always a little ahead of the normal user, you can say. The technology is normally, they can provide a lot of services which the user at not all times has accepted. I think it is important that the technology at all times is solving a problem for the user, because applying technology just for the sake of technology doesn't really make a lot of sense. And at EPOS, we constantly strive to make sure that we are doing a difference and making it valid for the user to act professionally with the audio equipment. So we do not apply technology for the sake of the technology. We apply technology to solve a real problem for the user, and we truly believe that we are doing that by providing professional audio equipment for conversation and collaboration.
On what fields are you working on, Professor Lenarz?
Well, I think the main thing is that we use the audio technology to support people who are hearing impaired. That's one thing. Yep. But also use it for instance for noise cancellation, and that is something which is inbuilt into audio devices, but also hearing devices, and this brings together different parts of technology which we can use today. So, and what was said, that we of course have sensors around us, and more sensors are coming that can really transport more information. The point is, coming back to your initial question about the video conferencing. Mm-hmm. So we miss some of the information we have in meetings in person. Yeah? So you see the people in the room who are around, you speak to an audience, and you see the people, you see the faces, etc. Now that is all not there, and therefore it's important that the information that is transported is more or less kind of complete, yeah, because it allows us to have a more lively interaction and more spontaneous interaction. And that means that we have to really give this or use the technology in order to enable the participants in such conferences to really get different aspects of communication. Mm-hmm.
Okay, coming back to a very practical view, talking about solutions, you offer solutions, Jesper. Now we heard a lot about technology and about the possibilities that it offers, but when we now take a look at small or big solutions, which are suitable for what kind of business, what would you suggest?
I think there's different types of solutions for different kinds of needs. We can see that the hybrid working style, where people are working from anywhere and any time, there you need an equipment which is really suitable to remove noise, both from the person who is talking, the own voice pickup. So when I'm talking to you, for instance, it is important that I do not pick up a lot of other background noise than my voice when I'm talking. On the other hand, if I'm in a very noisy environment, then I put on my headset, it's also important that I only hear your voice and is not distracted by all the surrounding noise. So that is one type of product. Another type of product, we can go into this hopefully post-pandemic period that we're entering now, and there will probably be an increased demand for video solutions, where video and audio are playing much more together in an integrated way, because we foresee, as we also discussed earlier in this session here, that people will not return to work like they did before. We have a new normal. It also means that we need to get used to work together, sometimes in the same reading room, even though that we have one of our colleagues working from home with video and audio applications. So for the hybrid worker and the meeting room worker and the video worker, there will be different types of solutions which apply for their needs.
Coming to the final of our discussion here, of course, we are eager to get some recommendations out of all what we said for businesses who are interested in a better sound quality and are now convinced that it's a good thing to do, so to invest in technology. What would you say, Professor Lenarz? What should we pay attention to when we are using headphones?
I would always go for natural sound. So there are transparent headpieces that really give you the impression that you are not really so in a closed system. If you put in this insert earphones, then you can get easily this impression that you are isolated from the surrounding, but also that something is pressing in your ear. So there are good earphones. That's one thing, which are more transparent, give you also some impression of surrounding. That's one thing. The other one, if you use headphones, then they basically should really also allow you to switch, for instance, between what you are listening at, but also that you get some information from the surrounding, depending on where you are in. And that's possible that you can do it. This, I think, would be very important to select it properly for the given application and use. And it's important that companies really pay attention to that, and so that they have professionals really working with them in order to equip their employees and their staff members in the proper way.
All right, thank you. What are your recommendations, Jesper?
Well, my recommendation is that you really pay attention to what is the need that you have for audio equipment. If you are a hybrid worker who is working from anywhere, any time, then you of course need to make sure that you have a very efficient, active noise cancellation system, which enables you to conquer your own space, even though that you are in a noise environment. And you also need to have a very good own voice pickup, a microphone, beamforming, a lens, which is only picking up your voice, even though that you are in a noisy environment. Because only by using these technologies, you can act professionally, even though that you are in an environment which is not really suitable for a conversation.
Thank you very much, Jesper Kock, and thank you very much, Professor Thomas Lenarz. Interesting talk.